We'll read the agenda into the record first, and then we'll get started. We have a continued public hearing for 400 Freyberg Parkway site plan review, a discussion and vote for 66 Otis Street site plan review decision, a public hearing for site plan review at 165 Flanders Road, a public hearing for an amendment to the special permit T-OV number 2014-1 Village Commons at 1 Gleason Street regarding the water line, and a discussion regarding the Master Plan Implementation Committee. First item on the agenda is 400 Freyberg Parkway, and we received a email from John Soper, who is the representative of the owner, and I'll read that into the record. It's dated Wednesday, November 3rd. It's addressed to Jim Robbins, the town planner, and Kristen Belanger, the administrative assistant. Is that your title, Kristen? Okay. As an official representative from Verizon Corporation, I would like to request a continuation of the public hearing to discuss the site plan at 400 Freyberg Parkway for the next hearing on December 7th, 2021. It's signed John Soper from Verizon. Any questions on that? All right, I'll make a motion that we continue that public hearing to December 7th at 6:30.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? 5-0 in favor of continuing that hearing. Next item on the agenda is a discussion and vote on the 66 Otis Street site plan review decision. Jim Robbins, I'm going to turn this over to you to go through the decision. Patrick, could you just state your name and title for the record? I just wanted to ask you if you've had a chance to review the decision, if you have any.
Certainly. Good evening,
comments.
everyone. Patrick McCarty Engineering. Yes, I did review the draft decision. Jim and I spoke this afternoon. We just changed a little bit of wording on the easement plan so that it's a standalone plan and not part of the project plans. That way that single plan would be recorded and not the full plan set. But other than that,
Okay.
Everything was good.
Right, I saw that change. So Jim, if you could take us through that, and then we can see if the board has any questions or suggestions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you have in front of you a draft decision dated today, November 16, 2021, for 66 Otis Street, which is also the 19th hole corporation known as Cold Harbor Brewing. I should say for Cold Harbor Brewing. The first two pages describe the plan that was submitted, also describes the dates of the public hearings and the date the hearing was closed, which was last Tuesday on the 9th of November. Over at the top of page 2, it talks about a description of existing conditions on the site. Then the project description itself of what's proposed, followed by submittals with the application from the applicant. Then in the middle of page 3, we begin the conditions of approval, which is where I'll pick up. So condition number 1, and this is a boilerplate typical condition. Prior to the final certificate of occupancy for the newly constructed building, all plans approved to the planning board for site plan review with comments from all departments shall be verified through record plans stamped by a licensed engineer of record and supplemented by construction as-built. Said plan shall include all required landscaping, utilities, lighting, plot plan, site improvements, and/or other requirements as specified in the approved decision. The plan shall be approved by the town engineering, building, or other appropriate departments prior to issuance of the certificate of occupancy. Number 2, there shall be no parking of construction vehicles or construction worker vehicles in the right-of-way on Otis Street at any time. All vehicles shall be parked interior of the project site. Number 3, there shall be no loading or offloading of vehicles or materials in the right-of-way on Otis Street at any time. All activities involving loading or offloading of materials shall be conducted interior of the project site. Number 4, should the buildings on site become vacant at any time, the owner shall be responsible for maintaining active water and electric service to the building to ensure that all points of entry are secured. This requirement is necessary to maintain public safety for the site and its surrounding neighbors in the event of a police or fire department emergency. Lighting. All outdoor lighting maintained by the applicant shall conform to the requirements of the Westborough zoning bylaw and as required in the plans. The illumination levels of these outdoor lights shall not exceed the state maximum specified for parking areas. There shall be no glare or light pollution caused to adjacent properties. All new lighting installation in the parking area shall not exceed maximum of 20 feet in height, including the installation base as measured from ground elevation. The lighting fixtures shall be full cutoff designs to prevent light spilling outside of the parking area. Lighting mounted on the exterior building shall be shielded and focused downward to prevent upward bounce or spill onto adjacent properties. The stormwater management plan, operations and management plan shall identify where snow will be stockpiled. The applicant shall construct a 7-foot wide paved sidewalk, condition 7, shall construct a 7-foot wide paved sidewalk with a 2-foot grass strip across the property frontage as shown on the project plans. Also is contemplated in the BWALT multi-use trail feasibility study and the town's Otis Street corridor study prepared by MDM Transportation Consultants, Inc., dated September 2021, the corridor study. The applicant shall grant an additional 6-foot easement to the town and shall allow the town to construct a 12-foot wide shared use path and grass strips along the frontage of the site. The easement shall be surveyed, but
You said 12, that's
12 or 10?
it is 10 foot, I'm sorry. I don't know why I said 12. It's supposed to be 10. Thank you for that correction. It's correct as written. The easement shall be surveyed and shown on a final easement plan and delivered to the town for review and approval prior to being recorded at the Worcester County Registry of Deeds. This easement shall be complete, approved by the town and recorded at the registry prior to final occupancy of the new building. In addition, the applicant shall coordinate with the abutting property owner at 64 Otis Street to align its sidewalk to connect with the sidewalk and shared use path at their common property line. Prior to the commencement, number 8, prior to the commencement of construction activities, the applicant shall have addressed and resolved the comments contained in the town engineer's comment letters as noted below in this decision. Prior to the commencement of construction activities, the applicant shall hold a pre-construction meeting with the town at the direction of the town engineering department. Number 10, hours of construction. The hours of construction operation, including demolition and material processing activities for the project site, shall be limited to the hours between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and 7 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Saturdays. This includes the starting and idling of vehicles and machinery. Sunday and legal holidays shall be days of no operation. Now, I want to stop there because I want to ask the planning board if they feel that they would grant any additional time on Saturday, because this is in a commercial district. What I've proposed here is what is in our regulations for subdivisions, and generally you mirror that in all of your special permit or site plan review approvals. So I don't know if the applicant would rather work later on Saturday. He's in a commercial district, there's no residential neighbors, it's up to him, or it's up to the board, rather.
Jim, didn't we in the Amazon approval put that they could work other or additional hours as approved by the building commissioner?
And that's the same in here.
That's for Sundays and holidays.
Yeah.
So in the case of
Actually, the way that, the way that paragraph is written, they could ask to work out of any hours, so they could ask to work later on Saturdays, and Fred could approve that.
yes, that's correct.
Yeah.
So if you want to work later on Saturdays, just ask the building commissioner.
Okay. Thank you.
Number 11, the applicant shall comply with all applicable federal, state, and local regulations, including but not limited to CMR 90, Chapter 90, Section 16A, governing vehicle idling at the site. Number 12, hauling of materials such as fill materials or construction or demolition debris and the like to and from the project site shall only be allowed from Route 9 to Otis Street. There shall be no hauling of materials on other local streets. Number 13, during the days of construction on the site, at the end of the day, the applicant shall ensure that its construction debris or other materials tracked onto Otis Street be cleaned up on that portion of Otis Street adjacent to the site and in other locations along Otis Street as may be necessary. Number 14 just lists the comments from town departments. Numbers 15 and 16 are boilerplate that simply state that if there needs to be modifications, the planning board can determine by majority vote whether a formal amendment is necessary, and if not, that no public hearing is needed. And then non-performance simply states that the applicant's failure to comply with any of the conditions stated above will be considered a violation of grounds for immediate revocation of the approval following a public hearing as required under Mass General Law, Chapter 40. And that's your decision. I have just one question, and I don't know if the town engineer wants to weigh in on this. So I know there's still going to be ongoing comments with your plans working with the town engineer. I just want to make sure that you'll continue to work with Lisa on those.
Oh, certainly.
Okay?
Thumbs up from
Any
Lisa and myself.
questions, or, Patrick, did you have any response?
No,
I
I'm
didn't know
fine,
if you
thank
had
you.
anything further to say. Okay. Any questions, comments from the board? I did have one, I think it's a typo in the list of letters, Jim.
Okay.
From town departments. I'm sorry, materials relevant to the application, there's a bullet list. The last one, letter from Patrick McCarty, President Patrick McCarty Engineering to the planning board addressing town commandments. I think it's supposed to be comments.
Yeah, it is.
As much as Fred wishes he could do commandments. but- All right, and I don't think that
catch.
significantly changes anything, but
Mr. Chairman, that just made me think of one item, if I may.
go ahead.
There was one comment from the school department that was offered that was relative to the industrial D overlay and not specific to this project. So
Yeah.
I think that's, I mean, it's listed in there, but there's really nothing to do.
Yeah, I don't think it has, it's really applicable, but we usually list any
Thing you
correspondence
received.
that.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody care to make I think that's it for comments. Go ahead, Tim.
I move that the planning board approve the site plan review for 66 Otis Street with the conditions stated in the site plan approval decision number 2021-5 dated November 16, 2021, with any appropriate edits and changes discussed this evening.
Second that.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? That's 5-0, right, Pete? I couldn't see your hand, sorry. All right, thank you for coming in, Patrick. We'll move on to the next
Thank you
item
all
on
very
the
much.
agenda.
Appreciate it.
The next item on the agenda is a public hearing for site plan review at 165 Flanders Road. I have to read the legal notice into the record, and then we can get started. Legal notice, Town of Westborough for site plan review hearing pursuant to the rules and regulations of relative to site plan review under Section 1240 of the zoning bylaws of the Town of Westborough. The Westborough Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, November 16, 2021 at 6:30 PM in the Great Hall of the Forbes Municipal Building, 45 West Main Street, Westborough, Mass., on a plan to expand the existing parking lot and provide supporting utilities and drainage at 165 Flanders Road, e.g. America Cumberland Farms Distribution Facility. Any person wishing to be heard should appear at the time and place recited above to be heard. A copy of the application and plan are available for review in the Westborough Planning Board offices at 45 West Street, Westborough, Massachusetts, and the Town Clerk's office at 34 West Main Street, Westborough, Massachusetts, during regular business hours. And that's signed by the Westborough Planning Board, and that was in the Telegram and Gazette on October 29th and November 5th. Jim, do you have any introductory comments before we go to the applicant?
Just really briefly, and I'm going to turn this over to Luke. As you know, the planning board requires a site plan review approval for any project that creates 6 or more parking spaces. This project is quite large expansion of an existing facility that we know is the Cumberland Farms headquarters at 165 Flanders Road. There are no structures involved in this. It's the construction. It's 97 parking spaces, right?
Right.
Yeah, 97 additional parking spaces with access requirements and lighting. So I'll turn it over to Luke, and he can introduce himself for the record.
Sure, and good evening. For the record, Luke DiStefano with Bowler Engineering. Jim stole most of my thunder. The project is pretty straightforward. As mentioned, this is a proposed parking lot expansion at the former Cumberland Farms distribution facility and headquarters at 165 Flanders Road. It's now EG America, as I think most probably know. Cumberland Farms was acquired by Euro Garage a handful of years ago, and this is now their U.S. headquarters. And due to increased staffing as a result of the Euro Garage acquisition, as well as a return to the office place as we hopefully emerge from the COVID-19 pandemic, there's been a need for additional parking at that facility for a little while. So EG is looking to be a little proactive and construct the 97 space addition that hopefully you could either see if you got eyes in the back of your head on the rendering, or you might have with the plan set that was submitted in connection with the application. But basically, it's 97 parking spaces to be installed effectively right in the center of the property and one of the few upland areas on the site. If you're familiar with the site, it's got a host of wetlands, ACEC areas, floodplain. So we tried to keep this location as close to the building as possible, but obviously outside of any jurisdictional areas to the greatest extent possible as well. If you've had a chance to review the application that was submitted, there is a small impact to the floodplain in the eastern portion of the expansion, but that's far offset by the creation of additional floodplain on the property. I think it's somewhere in the vicinity of 11,000 cubic feet of additional flood storage that would be created to mitigate the small impact we're having on the existing floodplain. We're also proposing to mitigate the increase in impervious cover through a country-style drainage system on the south side of the parking expansion that would basically direct stormwater through a grass swale into a forebay and then ultimately into the existing stormwater management basin that exists just outside or on the north side of the current parking area. As Jim mentioned, it's an increase of 97 parking spaces. I want to check that because we did lose one parking space at the front of the building. We're actually required to have 12 ADA accessible spaces given the increase in overall parking. There were 10 current. We're increasing that to 12, but I think had to get rid of one in front. So it might be a total of 96 additional spaces, but that was one of the comments that came up. We'll certainly verify that. In the worst case, it's 96 new spots. In the best case, it's 97. There's some landscaping improvements proposed. They're looking to plant some trees and some plantings around what would be a sidewalk extension that would ultimately connect the parking expansion to the main parking field in front of the building. And then the only other real improvement or modification to the site resulting from this particular plan is the installation of a handful of yard lights in the parking area. Obviously, we want that parking area to be well lit for the individuals using it, as well as the sidewalk. So we're installing, initially we had looked to install some 25-foot high light poles within the parking field itself. We understand that the town doesn't want anything in excess of 20, so we're certainly willing to reduce the height to 20 square feet to properly illuminate the parking area. And then there's a handful of 12-foot high lights that will line the sidewalk that leads from the parking to the main parking field, again, to provide light and keep that well lit for individuals using that. This facility is open 24 hours a day, so we want to make sure both the parking and the walkway are well lit. With that, there's really no other changes to the existing site plan, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions the board or the audience may have. Thank you.
Let's go to the board first. Anybody have questions or comments on this? Tim, go ahead.
Do you have any plans to install EV-ready electric spaces along with the lighting that you're installing?
It is not part of this current plan. It is something that we noted in the comments from town staff that we received. I will bring that up to Cumberland Farms or EG. It is certainly possible that they might be willing to do that, but it's something I would need to discuss with them at this point.
Are there any EV charge stations on the existing parking?
you would think I know we've been involved with this project or this site for about 7, 8 years, but I don't think there are right now at this point in time.
Okay, well, the building commissioner isn't here really to comment, and so it would be, I think, a request of us, because you're not necessarily building something, but it is part of the 9th edition code 13, chapter 13, that 15 or more parking spaces provide at least one EV-ready space. So I think we'd certainly be looking for that.
Yeah, and again, certainly something I can bring up. Right now, I would say it's probably not an issue, but again, I need to get clarification from EG.
Okay.
That's all from
Anything else, then?
Nope.
I just feel like there's plenty of open space based on you're going from 72.8 down to 72. It's required to be at 60%. I think if you can go with the green option that Tim mentioned, I think I would be okay with moving forward with a parking lot here. It seems like there's plenty of open space available.
I just had a question about access to the main building. Now, I quite frankly have not visited the site. So is the main building that gray or beige colored structure that we see at the bottom of just under
Correct. Yep.
there? So my question is, to people to get from this parking lot to the main building, they're going to have to walk all up around on that path, which is on there?
Correct, on the east side of the parking expansion.
Right. So I don't understand why there isn't a connection, direct connection between the two parking lots.
The area that you see in the rendering to the due south of the proposed expansion, that's a freezer. That's part of a large cold storage portion of the building. The main entrance to the building is in the middle, which is, per this plan, further east. So the sidewalk will basically direct you almost right to the middle or right to the front door or main entrance to the facility.
Oh, okay. I mean, quite frankly, and looking at it myself, I'd walk across the green space onto the main parking lot and then walk up that way instead of going all the way around on that path.
I think to get to the front door, if you did that, it'd be a longer walk and you'd be walking through park tractor trailers. That area is actually, for the most part, fenced off from the rest of the employee parking, because that area that's just south of the proposed parking is all tractor trailer storage and circulation.
All right. That's a long walk from that parking lot to the entrance.
It's something they've toyed with for a while. Unfortunately, just given the nature of the site, they don't really have any other space that they can build that would be closer to the building and not within jurisdictional areas, wetlands, floodplain, et cetera.
What?
The entrance was here.
Well, when it's 0 degrees out, I'm going to be happy to
Okay,
do that.
can we keep conversations to, we can't really have sidebar conversations when we're in a public hearing. Jim? Okay, yeah, a couple of my questions were addressed already. So typically when we approve projects in this area that have an increase in traffic, we ask for consideration towards neighboring intersections. We did that with Mass General Hospital. I realize this is an existing project, but with the transition from the distribution center to, I guess, the headquarters, how many more employees are on site than there used to be? And is that something that's significantly impacting traffic in the surrounding areas?
I can't tell you how many more employees are on as part of the acquisition, but when this was redesigned a handful of years ago, it was designed to accommodate the employees that had been taken from the current office headquarters that were in Framingham. I believe at one point, this building had served as their headquarters back years ago, but then the office space had been abandoned. They moved to Framingham. They then brought all their employees or their office employees from Framingham back to Westborough. At that point, I forget, it was maybe somewhere between 100 and 200 additional employees brought to the warehouse facility. Since the acquisition, there have been additional employees added. It hasn't been that significant. The issue is there are timing conflicts with shifts ending and shifts starting where, based on some of the new employees and the fact that there is a return to the office, they're finding some daytime hours and even some late or early evening hours where they need the overflow parking, and we lost my,
That must have timed out.
but as far as increased employees, I can certainly get you that number. It's not, like I said, in the hundreds, but there's certainly an increase. From a traffic standpoint, you're basically seeing the same traffic now. They're just trying to find a place to put those cars that are entering the property. If you've been there during some of these busy hours, they park along the access road into the site. And that's one of the things they're trying to get rid of because it's forcing people to walk down the street where they have truck traffic, like I said, and other vehicular traffic. So they figured the best solution would be the addition of the parking lot as shown. Let me just log back in here real quick.
So I guess my point on that is, really, should we be asking for some sort of mitigation towards traffic improvements in the area? But specifically, I'm thinking of the Flanders Road, and with MGH, we asked them for some mitigation towards a light at the end of Flanders Road. I mean, that residential road is already overtaxed, and any additional traffic on that road, I think, merits some consideration by this board. So I'm just not sure if your applicant would be willing to make a minor contribution towards a solution there. We're trying to build a fund towards that.
Again, it's certainly something I can take under advisement, and I would have to run by EG. I think, the added traffic that is going to be generated by an additional 97-spot parking lot is minimal, and it doesn't really have an impact on Flanders Road or the surrounding roadway system. But again, if the board sees otherwise or feels otherwise, I can certainly talk to EG and see what their disposition is on a contribution or the preparation of some sort of analysis that would support the fact that the impact to the roadway is negligible.
We already have an analysis that says that intersection is failing. I think we're kind of tired of studying things and just looking to build a solution there, but as with anything, that's an expensive proposition. So if you could run that by them and see if there's a willingness to contribute to a solution. We've asked other projects for that. It's not a new concept, but obviously may,
Sure.
we'll have to see what they say. All right. Any other questions or comments?
Mark, I just wanted clarification. The traffic problem that you're talking about is the one at Flanders Road in East Main?
Yeah, that's the specific intersection I'm thinking of where
Okay,
we
well, I
have
just wanted
yeah.
him to know which
So-
intersection we were really,
presumably these employees are going out for lunch. They're hopefully coming downtown Westborough. Well, all right then. But even so, some of them are traveling through downtown on their commute. I guess my issue is that really when you have a distribution center, you have a limited number of employees, you have trucking come in. I'm just not sure whether the traffic has been increased with this transition from just a distribution. I'm really not clear on that. I don't want to ask for a traffic study. I don't think that's necessary, but I'm hoping they'll be willing to contribute. Again, a small contribution I think would be appreciated to help the town come up with a solution for that residential section of Flanders Road.
I just wanted to clarify the fact which intersection we were talking about, so that, back to EG, you can say, this is where the
Understood. Thank you.
I mean, I think both ends of Flanders, even the intersection with Computer Drive there needs some improvement, but Specifically, I was thinking of the East Main Street. We're trying to build a light there, and far short of the funds to do that. So regardless, let's see where we go with that. I don't want to spend too much time on that now. If anyone else has questions.
Just that the applicant, what is the employee difference? You know, you speculated about that. Just curious to know how many more employees, are expected, what the distribution center, per Mark's question, what are we looking at in terms of the delta and any increase? If they need parking, it's because more people are coming. So it'd be just helpful to know what number we're talking about.
Yeah, I think some of these employees may have transitioned in there already, but this is our opportunity to ask for some consideration on that. So, again, I don't know if they've been there for a year and now they're just trying to solve the parking issue, or if they've been there for 5 years and now they're just trying to solve the parking issue. But I think as there's growth in employees at that site, it is contributing to a strain on local intersections. So again, I don't want to belabor the point. I just, that's one thought I had on it. If there's nothing else, I'll turn to the public. Anyone in the public wish to comment on this project? Okay. I think.
Mr. Chairman, I just have one question of Luke.
Jim.
So on your plans, and I know that you know this because you probably saw the comments from the building commissioner as well as the town engineer about the discrepancy in the number of parking spaces.
I can't really hear you.
Okay, sorry about that. My apologies. I'll speak closer to the mic. So Luke, you probably already read many of the town's comment letters.
Correct.
And both the building commissioner as well as the town engineer's letter, there was a question about the discrepancy in the total number of parking spaces. And if you could clarify that, it's only like 3 to 4 parking spaces different. But if you could get that right, because the narrative differs from the zoning table. We need to have that correct.
Yeah, I noticed that. I'll definitely clarify that.
Okay.
So we got the exact number.
And just to get it on the record, the size of your parking spaces?
I believe they're 10 by 20, but
Okay, that's what they need to be. That's the town standard.
let me, memory serves from last time, I think we,
9 by 20? 9 by 20.
yeah, 9 by 20.
Great. All right, nothing else, Jim? Yeah, go ahead. Do we have a motion? Yeah, we do.
Continue the public hearing for 165 Flanders Road site plan review to.
I second it.
Before you vote on that, if you close the public hearing, you won't be able to discuss mitigation.
Yeah, we're not closing it, he continued it. That was the
Okay,
motion. was to
continued it,
continue
okay.
And I
Right,
still
that's
second it.
6:30. Yeah, I got a motion and a second. Any discussion of that motion? All those in favor? That's 5-0. Okay.
What was the date? I'm sorry?
December 7th.
December 7th?
Jim, I think you could probably draft
That was my plan.
decision, and we can hopefully close the hearing and vote at that meeting. So, I don't
And I'll work to get answers back to Jim, both to the comments that we had gotten and the comments received tonight in advance of the meeting.
Yeah, and when you have an answer regarding a contribution, please let me know so I can get it back to the board.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks, Luke.
Okay, next item on the agenda is a public hearing for an amendment to special permit TOV number 2014-1, Village Commons 1 Gleason Street, regarding the water line. I have a legal notice to read into the record for this one as well, so bear with me. Legal notice of the Town of Westborough Office of Planning Board, notice of public hearing for special permit modification within the Transit-Oriented Village District TOV pursuant to the rules and regulations relative to special permits under Section 1330, 2300, 2600, and 5,000 of the zoning bylaws of the town of Westborough and Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 9. The Westborough Planning Board will hold a public hearing on November 16, 2021, at 6:30 p.m. in the Great Hall of the Forbes Municipal Building, 45 West Main Street, Westborough, Massachusetts, on a proposal to modify special permit TOV 2014-1 for Village Commons at 1 Gleason Street, Westborough, Massachusetts, located in the transit-oriented Village District as described under Section 5000 of the zoning bylaws. The proposal includes extension of the project water line to the abutting property and modification to the project commercial component. Anyone wishing to be heard on this matter should appear at the appointed time and location. A copy of the application being considered can be viewed at the office of the Westborough Planning Board, 45 West Main Street, and the Westborough Town Clerk, 34 West Main Street during normal business hours, and that's signed the Westborough Planning Board. That was in the Worcester Telegram and Gazette on October 29th and November 5th, 2021. Jim, I'm going to let you summarize this. I don't see the applicant in attendance, so.
Yeah, I don't see Mr. Ansari in attendance. He's supposed to be here. He called the board to figure out what time he should show up. We told him he should be here by now, so I don't know why he's not here. But we could either continue this and move to the next item, or I can just simply summarize for now where we're at.
Well, why don't you summarize where we're at, because I think regardless, we're going to have to continue this because we're not, there's still some outstanding issues there, but I think it's good for you to summarize where we're at, so
Sure.
the public that, you know, showed up for this hearing at least have an update.
Thank you, Kristen. So Kristen said she sent a message and he's on his way.
Thanks, Kristen. Great.
So in the interim, as you know, the planning board had asked Mr. Ansari if he would work with the homeowners association of Westborough Village to connect the water line and creating a loop through Westborough Village to his property to Fisher and Gleason Street, so that there isn't a dead-end water line at either his project or at Westborough Village. We discussed the terms of that, what they might be, and asked Mr. Ansari to reach out to the homeowners association at Westborough Village in consideration of that connection. I know he has done that because I have forwarded emails from the manager of the association giving us an update of where they're at. And without giving too much more information, waiting for Mr. Ansari to be here, the association is waiting for an estimate for the work on their side. Mr. Ansari is prepared to move forward. I know there are several other issues that I think we need to wait until he arrives.
Okay. I think we can maybe take up some of the other agenda items and see if, give him a chance to come. If you've communicated with him and he's on his way, if he hasn't arrived by the time we're done with everything else, we'll consider continuing this.
So could I just ask the board to vote to continue the hearing until Mr. Ansari returns or appears and then reconvene to the hearing?
Okay,
And we'll
I'll
take
make a motion to continue the public hearing for the amendment to special permit TOV 2014-1 Village Commons at 1 Gleason Street to later this evening once the applicant has arrived.
I'll second that.
I think I heard Jim second. All those in favor, any discussion of the motion? All those in favor? That's 5-0. If you could be patient, if you're here for that item, I appreciate your patience. Next item on the agenda is a discussion regarding the Master Plan Implementation Committee. Jim Robbins, I know we had scheduled Kathy Druber from Northborough, who recently went through this process, to come in. Can you remind me, is that the 7th as well, or is that?
That's what we're shooting for, the 7th. She needs to obviously confirm with me, because I think I told you she had recent surgery and has been out of the office. She plans to bring the consultant, VHB, which you're familiar with, Donnie Gullers-Kobe, who did our master plan. I think it'd be good to see him again and to be able to ask Donnie questions. In the interim, one thing I wanted the board to do is to think about the composition of an implementation committee, whether you wanted to have a subsection of the board on that committee, and then have various departments that are integral to this, such as maybe the Economic Development Committee, a member of the Board of Selectmen or other boards and commissions in town, and then sub-members at large, I think would be good. You probably want to consider also having a representative from the Zoning Board of Appeals. But you don't want this to be a large committee.
I agree with that. Okay. So I think we should probably take up that discussion again after we hear from Kathy. Okay.
Yes.
Anybody have questions for Jim on that? All right. I see that Farouk has arrived, and so we can reconvene. Do we have to vote to go back into the public hearing? I'll make a motion to reconvene the public hearing for the amendment to special permit to TOV 2014-1, Village Commons 1 Gleason Street. Okay, Jim seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? All right, that's 5-0. We are back in session on the public hearing. Jim, I think you summarized it already for us.
Pete is recusing himself for the record.
Okay. Pete has a conflict on this, so there'll be 4 of us discussing that. Farouk, I guess we can turn to you now.
Should I come?
Yeah, please come up. Just name and title for the record again. Then we can discuss where we're at.
Yes.
Just name and title, Farouk. Just, I know you've been.
My name is Farouk Ansari, and I represent Village Commons.
So Farouk, I know we had some correspondence between you and the neighboring property. Can you just update the board on where you're at with that?
Okay. I have been very much in contact with both the management company and the trustee. The trustee is a very, very nice man, and he's been very cordial to me about trying to get this thing done, but obviously there is a board involved. They all have to vote. So he said management company would get back to me, and after about 2 or 3 weeks delay, they did get back to me saying that send us a plan of what you guys gonna do. So I sent them the plan like 10 minutes after he asked me for that. And then he says, well, we will discuss this and we'll make a decision and get back to you. There was the last email that I had heard from him. This was like a week ago or so. I kept Jim appraised of every little detail so that he is aware of it. Now, that's where we are at. Now, this morning, I had a conversation with the trustee, Mr. VJ, and he said there are certain things he didn't know, but the management company didn't tell him about some asphalt cutting involved and this, that, and what have you. So he says he will talk to them and make a decision and get back to us. That's from the head of the Board of Trustees. So that's where I'm at. And we obviously, as the board am I done with your question, or are you going to ask me the same thing?
No, I just don't know if you've, are you done answering the question?
What I did was, I did not want to get involved in this back and forth and waiting around. The weather is going to die on us pretty soon. Any time if it gets frozen, can't dig anymore. So I took the initiative and I kept both Jim and Lisa 100% involved in it, and we went ahead and I completed my side of the line. Today we completed it. So Hazel was very much asking for that, and I did not want to just waste time just talking. We wasted a few days anyhow because of the holiday on Thursday and then no inspections on Friday. But as of today, we brought the line over to the fence and closed it off with a gate valve. And now, whenever they decide or whatever they do, then we can worry about it from then on. But I did that part. It's done.
Okay, I appreciate that you got right on that, Farouk. That's the kind of progress we were hoping for. Hopefully we can work out, get through this delay on their side of the line and get this loop completed. We did receive a letter regarding drainage issues there, and I saw some back and forth on that. Could you update the board on what's going on?
Yes, I would. we have kept our property as close as possible to the stormwater directives. And we had placed a bunch of erosion control measures along the side of, there's a little fence between the two properties, you may have noticed. So we did that, and I know a few weeks ago, we got yelled at for getting some our water on their side, and we were kind of shocked, but we went out there and doubled up on everything. And lo and behold, when the last few rains happened, my guys, I'm not always there on site, but the site supers are there, they called me and they said that a bunch of people were standing outside from our neighbor's side. And they came and they ripped out the erosion control measures on our side, the one that were holding it up. And obviously by doing that, their side of the water started flowing on our side. So they were relieving the water to come on our side, which I think is totally ridiculous. They shouldn't be doing that. So today again, my guy called me and the same exact thing. But the interim, I had received an email from Mr. Scott Wolf saying that please check it out. My guys are having some difficulty with water in their basements. And I'm saying their houses are so much higher than my land. How can they have water because of me in their basements? I never believed it anyhow. So now we know there is a drainage issue on their side towards the fence. So they need to somehow fix it. Not only that, but I want the board to know, and I think Jim knows that, Stephen Bakari knows that, Lisa knows that, our people know that there is a 4-inch pipe that was left to drain on our side of the property. Must have at the time when they built the subdivision or whatever they did. So there is a 4-inch pipe, you can clearly see it. So that when rains hard, it just flows water on our side. Now we're starting to kind of close in on it and finishing it all up, so we could see a lot more. So I think if they did something with the drainage on that side of the fence, Mr. Chairman, it should be okay, you know, so.
That's clear as mud, and no pun intended. I mean, that's just, so I'm just trying to figure out where all this water's coming from and how do we solve it? Because I don't want to leave the new residents there with a problem, and I don't want the existing.
Their land slopes towards the fence, so it's very, very easy to figure that out. So if you go there on site, you'll see how the grading runs, you know?
Can somebody tell me if we've had complaints from the neighbors before this project about drainage?
So, Mr. Chairman, prior to Farouk's construction, there was no water to flow towards Westborough Village because Farouk's site is below Westborough Village. Farouk's site is the lowest part on that part of the street. So before his beginning construction, they would not have noticed the water. Additionally, the material on the site prior to construction was gravel, so it probably would have infiltrated quickly. But since construction has begun, grading has changed the elevation of the site. Farouk has installed drainage on his side of the property to handle his water. Not knowing what occurred on the other side of the fence at Westborough Village, hearing that there is a discharge pipe, a 4-inch discharge pipe, that's news to me. I know you've said that before, but I was unaware that that existed.
Yeah.
So that's something that's going to need to be looked at and solved by the Homeowners Association for Westborough Village.
Yeah, I don't understand how a discharge pipe just gets discharged to the neighbor's lot. I mean, I can't imagine that was in the design. It would have discharged to a detention basin, right?
Hopefully.
Can I attempt
Go ahead.
to answer that, Mr. Chairman? See, the thing is, when Westborough Village was built, we were not there. Village Commons was not there. So they went ahead and did whatever they did, and there was a little low spot there, because our side is the lowest of them all. So they just decided to put a little drainage pipe there and left it there. Now, we started building our subdivision from Gleason Road, from Fisher Road onwards, we started going back in. And that pipe is way in the back. So when we started coming close to where those two garages are, the last two garages, that's when when the bushes got removed, we could see the pipe there and discharging water.
Right.
Only when it rains.
But Farouk, my point is that I'm pretty sure that the approved design for Westborough Village next door did not have a discharge pipe just leading to nowhere, right?
No, that cannot be a part of the design.
So I would ask whoever's responsible for verifying that to maybe discuss that with Westborough Village so that, because to me, they're not in compliance with their permit if that's the case, or if, I know it's not really clear who's at fault here, but I can't imagine a discharge pipe it'd be like me draining my in-ground pool on my neighbor's lot. So I don't really think that's appropriate.
Yeah.
And if that's contributing to the problem, we need to come up with a
One last
solution.
thing. I wrote them an email today and put you on CC and him and all, our DPW people, telling them that they really need to do something about their drainage. Otherwise, because the neighbors just show up and rip out that stuff here. I mean, I cannot believe that somebody had the audacity to come out and do that, but they did. So I wrote them a nice email, not threatening or anything like that. I just said, hey, we're going to have to fix it all and send you a bill.
I wondered, the diagram which we all received, which shows two areas in which there's water. One is in the middle between the two roots of houses, and I can't figure out where that comes from. I mean, what?
That's a separate issue.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I thought it might be. So that was the other one. I mean, I can understand the one on the fence with the water coming in from Westborough Village. What I can't understand is this water in between the two rows of
buildings.
houses.
Right. Farouk, do you have a comment on that?
Hazel, it's the rainwater. It only happens when it rains really, really heavy, because their side is graded towards the fence. It's a little bit in gentle grade, and then the water comes in. Now, once we finish our side, 100% of it, I know we have manholes on our side, but that water could never get up to that high of a manhole. Our manholes are, higher, because that grade on the back of there is a little bit higher. Then there's a little gully where the fence is. If somebody on Westborough Village side wants to go over there with an engineer or whoever they hire to do the job, it's very, very clear that where the water is coming from, and I think it's a pretty simple fix.
Yeah, I understand you're just really addressing the problem along the fence there. My concern is the water that's getting into the walkway or area between the houses. I mean, not the main walkway that you go down between all the residences. My concern is what that water problem is caused by.
Can I show Farouk this email? He may not have
Please,
that.
we'll give him a copy of that.
Is that for me?
Yeah, I think there were some pictures too. Do we have,
I don't,
does
we
anybody?
didn't see the pictures.
Okay. You're talking about the pink area, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about the pink area between the two rows of houses.
Right. That area has now been all regraded, and we have placed an asphalt walkway to go towards the macadam finish on it. So a lot of that area has now been paved in the middle of those houses. I don't know, Hazel, when was the last time you were there?
Not recent. I haven't been there during a rain.
Okay, that pavement was done last week. So that paving was done last week. And now, once the paving is done, we have to put the bricks on either side of it, because according to your approval, that walkway has to be 8 feet wide, okay? The 5 feet is the pavement, and 3 feet is the foot and a half and foot and a half on either side of it, making it passable for a car or ambulance, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
See the fresh
So once that is done, then we have to grade it all out and put the grass there, and there won't be any water issues.
Okay, so you're gonna bring in some topsoil.
Oh, yeah, that's not done.
And loam and.
Plus, there's a huge
seed.
patio there too in front of the
What
commercial.
about shrubs and other?
Yeah, sure, whatever the approved plan calls for.
All right,
Farouk, can I ask you to share that with the town engineer? Because she doesn't have that diagram that I just gave you.
So what I was going to say about the previous drainage issue, I believe that there was probably some drainage issues already going on Westborough Village's side. When we made Farouk put up the erosion control barriers, I think naturally it went onto his property and then made its way through the back. We created sort of a dam by making Farouk keep his water on there, which actually backed up some of their water. So I think that's why they
Westborough
want the
Village
erosion
is.
control. The inspectors was out there today, and they're trying to come up with a intermediate solution right now. I think a lot of this will go away once he's finished. Basically, the water's going to go where it went before, which is basically in between the two properties along the fence line. So they're talking about putting some, we were talking with Farouk's field guy, maybe about putting some riprap at the end of the project, just to facilitate the flow. I think that will help. I don't know anything about this particular problem, but I think Westborough Village is still going to have some issues with those patios that are flooding out. I think it's a gutter problem. I have talked to them about it. They disagree. But it's really on them to fix that. But Farouk's site guy has already agreed to do a couple things. I think that will help at the end. I think we just need to get through the next couple months.
Okay. I mean, I understand that on an ongoing construction site that, there's not finished landscaping, that, that might be a problem in some areas. So any other questions on this?
I mean, just to confirm, and it seems to me if you put in the erosion controls we asked for is backing their water up, the problem's on their side.
Right, because of the flow.
And it's just making that evident, it's not on
We
the other
think,
side.
I mean, we haven't gone out and done any studies out there, but it seems from the inspections, it appears that the water just naturally flowed to the low spot, which is in between the two properties, and then flowed toward the back. When we asked Farouk to keep, put erosion control and keep his stuff on his site, we're basically creating a dam for them. And now their water is staying on,
their
right
side.
where it is. That's what we believe is happening. And it makes sense if they took out the erosion control on their own and it seemed to alleviate the problem.
But
That's
it
basically-
alleviated the problem onto the other property, which isn't a
Right, so
prudent
we're
solution.
hoping that maybe we can come up with something that basically just draws it to the
Captures it,
property
right.
line and to the back.
Okay.
I mean, that's where it naturally went originally, so.
Lisa, I had a question, since we're talking about that. The erosion control is obviously temporary during the construction phase. Tonight, earlier on, there's speculation that there's a drainage pipe on the Westborough Village side, I think.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. I actually hadn't heard of that
So I guess that raises the
myself.
broader question for me, that if Westborough Village has water collecting on the site, is the as-built Westborough Village drainage conform with whatever was approved at the time? You raised the question of retention,
I
so.
think that's a good question, but I think Lisa will be investigating that.
Okay.
Right.
Now that she's aware of it, and she can
I
compare
mean, it's not
what's-
unusual for a small drain just to daylight before the property line, and especially if the property next door was vacant, or wooded, it just dissipated on its own. That wouldn't be unusual. So by developing the property, we could have, now we're disrupting that flow. I'm not even sure where the drain is that you guys are talking about,
Sure.
so we'll have to look at it,
And it's certainly reasonable
but we'll make sure we
for
CC
all of the
you.
drainage for both sites to be completed to see what kind of residual problem exists that needs to
Yeah.
be remedied for the
But I do believe
homeowners.
Westborough Village has some issues with their patios and the gutters, where the gutters are on the building already.
Okay.
Yeah, I
They may
don't think
disagree,
this
but-
board has gotten a complaint from Westborough Village about their side. We've only gotten a complaint about Farouk's side, and we're just trying to make sure
Yeah.
that
Yeah, because we have heard complaints
that
before
when
about
this
the patio
project is
thing.
ultimately done, that we're not going to see standing water on the site
Right.
as a permanent problem. And I'm fairly confident of that at this point, but I would like you to investigate
Sure.
that a little further. And
then we'll
also,
look into this, too.
would like you to work with Farouk on either riprap or, I don't think we need a full swale design. Is that what it's called, a swale?
Yeah.
But something that would help that water.
I think
go where
after
it's
he
supposed to.
paves, when we start seeing how everything shapes up, we'll be able to better, assess where it's
Okay.
needed. And I don't think Farouk's going anywhere, so if we, try something and it doesn't quite work.
All right, so the issue that was reported to us, you think is just temporary?
I
until we
do.
get- Okay.
I do.
All right. Any other questions on where we're at on this, Farouk. I think we're going to continue this until we can get an answer from Westborough Village on whether they'll proceed with their side of the water loop.
I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting to hear from them, because unless I get permission, I can't do anything.
Right.
And I just want the board to know that I have done, with 100% respect to this board, I went out and did my part right away, and did not want to, haggle and this, that, and what have you. I just have a couple of things that I need to deal with Lisa later, but other than that, everything else is just fine. We are trying to work together, and I have a feeling, I'm an engineer by background, so that thing that Lisa was talking about, I would have to agree with the 100%, that once our side is all done and then grass is growing and their side is there, so I think a lot of the problem will automatically go away. However, the water path will still have to be there. It's going to go in the back somewhere. So we are in the interim right now. That probably won't happen until next year now, because the grass is not going to grow now. So,
Okay.
But I'm not too concerned about that.
Okay. I wanted to turn to the public, but Jim, any comments before we do that?
Just regarding the drainage again, it could be that the pipe that Farouk is referencing is a curtain drain. Sometimes curtain drains are installed, which is a drain around the perimeter of the property to take water away from the primary structure, the residential dwelling in this case. It's not unusual to have curtain drains installed post-construction, which means those units upslope could have been completed and the problem could have arisen, and the developer installed them to relieve the problem, and they might not even show on the as-built record if they're a curtain drain. But I leave that up to Lisa to take a look at.
Yeah, I think we've established, at least it's going to investigate that and get, I'm sure she'll get to the root of that and get back to us on, that drainage pipe that's part of the issue. All right. Any other comments from the board or the town? All right. Anybody from the public wishing to address this? Okay. Do we have a draft motion on this? No. I will make a motion to continue the public hearing for the amendment to special permit TOV 2014-1 Village Commons 1 Gleason Street, also to December 7th at 6:30. Any discussion of that motion? All those in favor of continuance is 4-0 with one abstention. Do we count Pete as an abstention? I think we have.
He recuses himself,
Okay,
so
we don't even have
we're
to
just going to
count.
note that.
This is 4-0 to continue. All right, thank you, Farouk, for coming in. We'll see you on the 7th.
Can I go now? Yeah, awesome. Okay, thank you.
Please continue to keep us up to date on that. We did the master plan implementation committee. Did we wrap that up to everyone's satisfaction? I think so. What else do we have? Minutes?
October 19 minutes, Mark?
Okay. Yeah, please, Jim, go ahead with that.
Let me just make one comment. It's, just for the minutes, it's not an abstention, it's a recusal,
Right.
which
no,
is what Peter did.
Right, no, I think that was my question and Jim answered that. Right.
We have minutes that were slightly revised that Krista did send us the updated version from October 19th. Any question on those minutes as revised? I would move that, or I can move it. I would move that we approve those minutes as received from October 19th.
Second.
Okay, any discussion of that motion? All those in favor? It's 5-0 to approve those minutes. Any other business, Jim?
No, just again, please keep in the back of your mind your thoughts for what the composition of the implementation committee might be, because when you come back together to discuss that, when Northborough comes, you should be thinking about that and asking them questions. Did you include this group? Why didn't you include this group? What groups did you include and why did you include them?
Remind everyone we have a meeting next week with the Board of Selectmen. 23rd, right? Well, like to say, go Westborough Rangers, the girls soccer and the girls volleyball are in the Final Four. That's pretty impressive. They're both, the Final Fours are in neutral sites. So
It's in Natick, I think.
the volleyball is, well, the volleyball is tonight. I believe that's in Natick. And the Soccer is tomorrow night in Mansfield.
Oh, it's in Mansfield,
Yeah.
that's where it is.
So,
What time is that meeting next week?
5:30.
5:30?
right. And there is a remote option.
Yeah, I might
I
remote
don't
in.
prefer in person, so do I. Yeah.
But it's in the town hall?
Yeah,
Yeah.
across the street.
5:30, okay.
All right, any other business? Kristen, anything? Okay, I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor? That's 5-0.
Difficult.
What?